Good Friday afternoon, Golden Black Live. We have a lot to talk about. At least we're going to manufacture that for the next 20 minutes, at least with Stacy and Kyle. You are watching Golden Black Live thanks to our sponsors, Triple State Farm. We'll start with State Farm agent Trent Johnson. And, of course, he has been a sponsor with us for a long time. Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Hilton Garden Inn, when tomorrow's a big day. Stay at HDI GI tonight. And, of course, I have a hard time getting my words out today. And of course, John Basham, the folks at Basham Rental. All right, you guys, by this point, as we say about every week, we've talked this game out. And where Purdue football is right now, it's a challenge to think of real positive outcomes for the Boilermakers tomorrow. But Kyle, I'll start with you. I'm not asking for a positive outcome, but what do the Boilermakers need to do to compete, do you think?
Lots of things.
Yeah.
I just see it as a pretty difficult matchup. I think that Wisconsin's defense is pretty good, especially in areas that Purdue has struggled in a little bit. I think they're going to be able to get pressure on David Blau, who's susceptible to making mistakes when he's under pressure. I think we saw that. We have seen that through his 3 games, and we saw it in particular a little bit against the Gophers. He was nervous in the pocket, left the pocket too early, wasn't very accurate, and I fear that if he doesn't get those things corrected in short order, then it's going to be ugly on Saturday.
Which it has been many years, consecutive years in Madison for Purdue, but this is not as good a Wisconsin offense, at least in the run game, partly due to injury,
right,
but et cetera.
I think best case scenario for Purdue, and Kyle and I were kind of talking about this, like what would it be, for Purdue to have a chance here? You got to run the ball well. I mean, We've talked about that all season, but especially with David Blau and with the challenges that Kyle talked about that Wisconsin's defense is going to, they're going to blitz. He's not going to know where they're coming from. I mean, just a lot of challenges in the passing game for Purdue. So you absolutely have to get DJ Knox and Markel Jones going. And if you do that, then maybe you can, at least, slow the game down a little bit, have a longer drive, feel like, okay, maybe you can gain some confidence if you can get some things going in the running game. So that's what you have to do that on offense, or you don't have a chance, in my opinion. Defensively, again, 3rd straight week, Purdue knows this team is going to run the ball against us. Can we stop them? They haven't the last 2 weeks when they knew what was coming. If you can do that this week, then maybe it's a close game. If you can run the ball, if you can stop the run, that's, I think, kind of best case scenario, for Purdue to have a chance to steal this game. A place, like you said, they haven't won in 5 consecutive times, and the margin of defeat or victory, depending on how you want to look at it, is like 28.6 points or something in those last 5 games. So it's a very difficult game. Purdue could have a chance, but everything's going to have to go right.
Yeah, only one of those games that actually was relatively close to 2005 game. I think it was Curtis Painter's first game as a starter, and he threw a couple pick sixes in that game, and it was like an 11-point game.
Surprised everybody with the option a little bit. That took everybody off guard, but also threw those interceptions.
Wisconsin is obviously offensively with the run game not being quite what it's been, and against Iowa. Iowa's doing this to other folks as well. 2 weeks ago, they and this is probably what Purdue's going to need, the turnovers, 4 turnovers by the Badgers, I believe, in that game that allowed Iowa to win. Is that as simple as that? You just have to have some gifts.
Yeah, if you can, stop the run a little bit, maybe to get them to turn the ball over. Wisconsin, we talked to John Velheis earlier for our podcast, and I think he quoted the 5 different starting offensive lines through the first 6 games. They've had different combinations, and they're really young up front. That's part of the reason why they haven't run the ball as well. And of course, Corey Clement also out since the first half of the first game of the season. So. They haven't rushed the ball as well. They have turned it over a little bit, so maybe that's where Purdue can do something. But to me, it just comes down to whether Purdue's front can get enough action in the backfield. And they didn't do it against Minnesota, which I think was that was surprising. We knew Minnesota wasn't going to throw the ball, but Purdue's inability. I think they just had 3 tackles for loss. Purdue's inability to disrupt their running game behind the line of scrimmage was a little bit surprising, and they'll have an opportunity to do that again, I think, against the Badgers. And if they don't, then that's a problem.
And it'll be interesting to see what kind of defensive fronts and different looks Purdue plays this week. We've seen against Michigan State they had the 5 defensive linemen, and then last week against Minnesota they had the 4 linebackers, so it was kind of 4-4, and then just the 3 behind it. Without Juwan Bentley, with Jimmy Herman maybe a little bit questionable with that injury too. I don't know that you can go 4 linebackers again. I think that the 5 linemen didn't have a lot of success, but you can put another big guy up there. I mean, they're going to have to play with 8 guys in the box. I mean, that's just Wisconsin's going to dictate that with the personnel that they're playing. But Purdue, again, has to stop the run. And so you do that by, playing +1 in the box and bringing Robert Gregory or Leroy Clark down. But shoot, might as well put another defensive lineman up there, especially if Michael Rouse maybe is back in the rotation this week, and maybe you have a little bit more depth in that front line.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to be a big thing. Can Purdue do much in the line of scrimmage? We do take questions on this show, and you're certainly welcome to put them in the chat room. We have one about when Purdue is struggling this bad, is it hard to get Morgan Burke on the show? Actually, it hasn't been hard to get. We've had Morgan on already this week. We can't have him as a weekly guest. We'd love to be able to do that. He usually has been pretty gracious with his time, and that has been part. I know you wanted to talk to Morgan this week, and he originally thought we were going to get an interview done. Decided maybe not to do that. Morgan did later in the week. But what do you look at in terms of just the overall reaction to what happened last week among the fan base? It just seems, stating the obvious here, that there's a lot of difficulty, and has belief left the building, so to speak, in your view?
Who's building?
Ross Aid, yeah, that's a good question.
I mean,
yeah.
Seriously, are we talking about Mollenkopf? Are we talking about Ross Aid? Because I think those are largely
you've hit on that topic
approaches.
a lot, but let's start with Mollenkopf.
No, I mean, the coaching staff, again, this is your job, right? I mean, This is what you're paid a lot of money to do, those guys. I mean, they're not going to give up. I mean, they're trying every possible thing they can to solve this. I mean, we kind of joked this week, Daryl didn't play music in practice. I'm like, who cares? That seems like such a small thing, but that's, to me, you can either look at it as who cares, it's a small thing, or you can look at it as they're trying everything they can to figure out something that they can click, with these guys, and that was a motivation, something or other. But
searching for internal motivation, because the theory behind the music playing in practice is you're supposed to be motivated by, the music and get moving a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Take away the music, have to find your own internal motivation.
So I mean, that may sound dumb to some people, but it's something. I mean, I think it shows they're trying anything they can think of to really get this going. So I don't think they have not lost any belief in that building, and the players too. The only thing you can do is keep working. I talked to the 3 senior captains this week, and they're like, "Hey, we're surprised. They all thought they were going to be better than this record-wise."
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us sitting up here thought they would be better record-wise at this point too. I mean, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they're upset. All of those things. But the only thing you can do is keep working to try to be better. I mean, and the people inside Ross Aid Stadium don't want to hear that, but.
Yeah.
But inside Mollenkopf, that's
the fans
that's
don't
where
want.
it's going.
They don't. I mean,
They just wanna see
that's
production.
understandable. They wanted,
Right.
at this point, and even before the season, there was a big faction of people on our website who didn't want to hear talk before the season because they had a couple bad seasons in a row, obviously.
Right.
And now we're at this point, and Purdue's 1-5, and I think a lot of people just don't want to hear it anymore. They want
wanna
to
see
see
it, yeah.
wins, and it's an interesting position to be in, because we ask coaches questions, they have to answer, and that the fans don't want to hear what they say anymore a lot of times. They just want simply to win on Saturdays.
Yeah.
You can't blame them for that. It has been a difficult 3-year stretch,
As do
no
the people
doubt.
inside Mollenkopf.
Yeah.
Yes.
They all
That-
went
They
that-
all
it does
want the
strike-
same thing.
It does
They all
strike
want
me
the
as a
same
little
thing.
bit funny when people on our site or anywhere else say, are the coaches really trying to win? Yes.
One thing you
They
don't get
are.
in college
They
football,
are.
you don't get a better draft pick by finishing
Yeah,
lower in the
they
league.
are trying. They're trying to win. Now, are they always making the right decisions? That's for us and everyone else to debate. I think sometimes, because they aren't always making the right decisions. I don't think they're trying to, and they're trying to win. And they'll try again Saturday. I don't think the odds are in their favor, but they'll go out there and play.
Yeah, they haven't won as a 23-point underdog in a long time on the road, but again, anything can happen. Juwan Bentley's injury, I'm just curious. You guys were there on, I guess, Tuesday and Wednesday, a little bit earlier in the day on Tuesday. What are we talking about here? Is there is there really a chance that he's can be back at all? I know it's been talked about this week, but
Yeah,
and you pretty much have definitively said no, that's not happening.
Well, I talked to Juwan. A group of
Yeah.
us talked to Juwan on Tuesday, And he said, he's considering his options. And I point blank said, why? Why would you come back?
Right.
Like, why would you come back this year? You're a sophomore. You have your whole career ahead of you. And he just said, I'm passionate about the game.
Yeah.
He's like, that's all I can say about it. He's like, I don't know what else to say. I'm passionate about the game. And so he didn't say he's coming back.
Yeah.
He just said that he would consider it again. And Daryl Hazel said it would be Juwan's decision. And I guess what happened, he had torn the same ACL in high school,
Right.
and they used a cadaver graft. And apparently, the cadaver graft is only good for like 3 to 5 years or something. So had he known at the time, probably, if he had all the information at the time and knew that he was a Division I caliber player, he probably wouldn't have gone that route, I would guess, to get it fixed. He said he didn't know that was the case. So that's kind of why I guess they're in this position now, is he retore the ACL with that graft. So he'll have to have surgery regardless. I don't know if he'll try to play this year. I mean, to me, again, I don't see there's any benefit to it.
Yeah.
But this is a kid who is unlike any other guy on this team, I think, just with the way he plays and the mentality that he has, and he's a different kid.
We talked before as a sort of media group about what exactly it would take to get Juwan off the field, because he had the back problem early on, I guess late in training camp going into the first
Yeah.
game, and we all said there's no way he's not playing against Marshall, and he did play, and we sort of joked about what it was exactly that would take him off the field, because he is, as Stacy said, just that kind of guy. He's going to go out there and play. The knee is going to take him off the field for now. I can't imagine playing linebacker when you don't have fully functioning knees. I just don't see it. I mean, we heard a little bit about this when Sean Robinson got hurt a year ago, that he was going to try and play late in the year, and then that lasted about 5 days until they realized
Can't do it.
can't do it. If I were him, I know he wants to play. Get the thing healed up right now, get your surgery here within the next month, and get ready for next year.
And the swelling has to go down first anyway. I mean, he wouldn't be playing within the next 2 weeks anyway. I mean, the swelling has to go down, and then that would be the place you would have to make the decision.
It is a huge problem, though, for the Boilermaker defense.
The guy they need healthy is Jimmy Herman. I
Yeah.
mean, he did not look close to ready to play on Tuesday and Wednesday when we saw him. Not even close. And, I mean, then you're down to guys who haven't played very much playing middle linebacker, whether it probably would be Garrett Hudson, who played a couple dozen snaps, give or take, last week, by far the most snaps he's played in a game. Then I guess after that it would be Evan Polium maybe in the middle. They're way down the list of possible middle linebackers against Wisconsin, a big physical team that sort of requires you to be big and physical and know what you're doing.
And again, if you did the 5 defensive line look, you can play 2 linebackers in that scenario. So I don't know if that would come into play at all either, if you decide
Could
to.
change the scheme a
Yeah.
little bit, from that standpoint. Yeah, it is interesting because of just the sheer nature of what other teams are going to try to do against Purdue. I don't know how much it necessarily changes. It may change just its ability to be effective against the Boilermaker run defense, or do you think Minnesota just figured out this is what it had to do? I mean, you chart the plays and watched a lot more closely than I do, but did you think that was a huge factor in last week's game, just in terms of how Minnesota approached it when they knew Bentley was out?
Jerry Kill said going into that game, we're going to run the ball 35 times.
Yeah.
So and he didn't know that Juwan Bentley wasn't going to play. I mean, Minnesota, that was about Minnesota and less about Purdue, I think. They needed to reestablish their identity, and they did.
Yeah, they did a very good job of that.
Purdue needs to find its identity and then establish it and then kind of move forward from there, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, that I think is probably the truest statement we've heard today. Playing away from Ross-Ade Stadium, that's another topic that Purdue has, for whatever reason, seems to have played better. They're obviously not playing well at home. Daryl Hazel's still looking for his first Big Ten home victory in Ross-Ade Stadium. Anything to
I don't
that?
know.
Is it just?
I haven't looked at that closely. I don't know. Maybe Stacy has, but I don't know if the sample size on that to me isn't. I mean, maybe the scores have been closer on the road, but
Well, you win
I
at
don't
Illinois.
feel-
I don't know
Yeah, I
if
mean,
there's
I
any
don't- I
real
don't
reason
feel-
for it except for maybe the empty stadium. Is that
Yeah.
is that?
I think
Well,
that
I
has
mean-
to have a little bit of an effect. I think, but they're not playing well either. They're not playing well anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
so
I
well
think
enough
the
to win.
argument for that is that they feel more pressure playing at home in front of their home fans. They feel more pressure to perform. I don't buy into that personally, but I think that that's some of the line of thinking there. Is that you get away and you fewer distractions, but I mean, like, what are the distractions? I mean, their families are traveling to watch them play, so I mean, if it's really about their families
Yeah.
are there too. And I think I was talking to Jason King the other day, and I think he had played at maybe Wisconsin one time or didn't play a lot, and he's like, when they're just screaming, you don't know that they're not screaming for you. Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just nice to be part of that environment where it's just, really charged up. So I don't know if I put much.
There were no fans. There were no fans in Spartan Stadium for the second half either.
True.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Nope.
not sure.
No,
not
it did
sure
get
that-
loud down the last little bit, the
Yeah.
players said. But I think there could be something to do it, maybe subconsciously, just the whole notion that this team seems to be pressing. I guess you'd use that term in terms of trying to make something good happen, and then I don't know if it's adding more pressure or they think it is because they're not getting it done at home. I would tend to agree. I don't know. That's a tough one.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
An interesting question to me is what is it that happened to start the second half?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you missed 4 tackles or whatever, 4 to 6, depending on how you look at
On
it.
the one
on
run?
the 71-yard play,
Keep-
but
yeah.
but even before that, I don't know. I know there's only one play before that, but it just felt like something changed at
Yeah.
halftime to make them come out. I mean, they had a couple of guys who just didn't look as tuned in there to start that second half, and you're just, what causes that
Yeah.
exactly? And I don't know, especially when you're still in a game. I don't know. But
Though
something went wrong to start that third quarter.
Though that may have started in the second quarter with the Trey Hart.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows on that front? But go ahead. Anything else to add to that?
I mean, I wrote this week about kind of the mental toughness,
Yeah.
portion of it, and handling adversity in games, and we've talked about this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And apparently they're still not better
Yeah.
at it. So, I mean, they need to be tougher, mentally tougher. And, that's something Frankie Williams talked about this week. We need to move on to the next play. If we have a bad play, forget about it and move on. Again, it's 3 years in here, folks.
Yeah. They're calling for basketball here, nothing personal against you guys. But all right, what are we going to see tomorrow? I know the predictions will be on the site shortly. We've had those predictions as well. I'm saying 30-14 Wisconsin. I'm going to buy into the whole notion that Purdue will play more competitively on the road for probably no reason based on data, but
I've got a really random final score.
You had 47.
47-14 Wisconsin.
one of the hardest scores to get in football,
Yeah.
but not impossible.
I mean, I felt really good that Purdue was going to win last week
Yeah.
against Minnesota. I feel really good that they're going to, if this is the right way to phrase it, I feel really good that they're going to lose.
Yeah,
To Wisconsin.
big apparently, but
And you were wrong last week.
And I was
yeah.
wrong last week.
And we have to
all were.
have to own up to our picks on Monday. Brian makes us do that, but Stacy, what do you see?
I cannot recall my score. I think it was 30-10 or something along those lines. I just think it's going to be really difficult for Purdue's passing offense to generate anything, So they need to get the run game going, and their defense needs to stop the run. And I don't see either of those things happening.
I'll throw in
Which
one
is
more.
why my score is that way.
One more question though on there for Markel Jones last week.
No.
We had a question about it. Will he get more carries?
I just read it. I read the question in advance.
Yeah, good.
More
No.
carries than
Than he did last week? or
Than he
more
did
games?
last
Greater
week,
focus
or
in the
then-
offense.
they like DJ Knox. People are forgetting that DJ Knox is a pretty good player. Markel was fantastic against Michigan State. There's no doubt about that. DJ Knox was better last week, and so he got more snaps. And that's how it's going to work. I mean, they're going to have to ride. Both of those guys need to be great this week to have a chance, but they're going to have to figure out the balance of getting both of those guys involved.
Ideally, you'd like both of them to have more than 19 combined
Carries. Yeah.
carries. If they have 19 combined carries on Saturday,
It's gonna be a long day.
they will lose.
Yeah, it'll be a long day. All right, that's the last word according to Kyle and Stacy. We'll take a 2-minute break and bring in Brian Newbert and Elliot Bloom for some real basketball wisdom and maybe political talk, whatever it takes. We'll hit that as well. Be back in a couple of minutes on Golden Black Live.